Most of us live as if we're just one self, but if you pay attention, you'll notice something strange. You don't show up the same way every time. Sometimes you're pure doing. You're running, chasing goals, answering messages, putting out fires. Your worth feels tied to how much you get done and how other people respond. That's the mode of surviving. Your virtual soul is in charge. Other times, you're more like a quiet being. You feel yourself as a person again. You notice your thoughts, your feelings, your body, your needs. You're not just performing life, you're actually in it. That's the mode of thriving. Your soulless person is leading. And then there are those rare moments of growing. Something in you wakes up. You care less about keeping up and more about what's true, what's beautiful, and what's genuinely good. You sense that your life is part of a much larger story. That's the mode of becoming. Your soulless spirit comes forward. In this video, I want to show you that these aren't random mood shifts. They're three distinct soul moods. There's the human doing. That's the soul is virtual, where you're surviving. Then there's the human being. That's the soul is person, and you're thriving. Human growing is the soulless spirit and becoming. If you like exploring consciousness and inner archetypes without the academic jargon or New Age fluff, subscribe so you don't miss the deeper dives on each mode. Philosophers have been mapping this inner complexity for a long time. In Plato's dialogue, Phaedrus, the soul is like a chariot, a driver trying to guide two very different horses. In the same way, these three modes pull you in different directions until you learn how they work together. Each mode has its own archetype, its own questions, and its own blind spots. By the end of this video, you'll be able to spot when you're stuck in surviving, running on anxiety, scarcity, and approval. When you've moved into thriving, living as a grounded, real person, and when you've opened into becoming, where your life starts aligning with deeper meaning and purpose. The colored bar in the upper right tells you the suit or the layer of your inner life. Blue is for spirit soul, yellow for soulless person, and red for virtual soul. These are all aces. Each ace represents a core soul mode, surviving, thriving, or becoming. Let's start with the one most of us know all too well. That's the mode of human doing, the virtual soul, that of surviving. When the virtual soul is running your life, you feel like a human doing instead of a human being. Your attention is pulled outward. You're scanning for, do I have enough? Do they like me? Am I safe? In this mode of surviving, your inner team works in a very specific, programmed way. Your false intellect races ahead, trying to predict every possible problem. Your false emotion swings with every email, every comment, every number on a screen. Your enslaved will pushes you to keep going, even when you're exhausted. Your body as an avatar feels wired and tight, like it never gets to land. All of these elements are pointed in the same direction. Stay on script. Keep the roll going. Don't lose what you've built. They're not bad. They're just programmed to keep you surviving. It's like you're stuck in a theater. You're on stage, in costume, under bright lights, performing a part you didn't exactly choose. And the audience out there decides if you're enough. Inside the virtual soul, the big questions sound like, what do they want me to be? How do I not fall behind? What if I lose what I have? For a quick self-check, ask yourself, how much of your day is driven by fear of losing status, money, or approval? When you finally stop, do you feel more numb than alive? If those landed, you probably know this mode very well. The good news is surviving isn't the whole story. There's another way of living where you're not just a role on a stage. As that lone wolf part of you learns to stand alone in healthy solitude, something quiet begins to shift. The wings of your will start to bud, and if you keep growing, they eventually carry you into a very different landscape, the soulless spirit, your Wizard of Oz level. In the virtual soul, you met your false self, false emotion, enslaved will, and avatar, parts of you that follow someone else's script, and you live on virtual junk food. In soulless person, those same positions are no longer false or enslaved. They begin to wake up. By the way, if you enjoy seeing how these patterns show up in stories, I've got a video that compares Plato's idea of the soul with the Wizard of Oz, and I'll link that for you. Here, your intellect is the charioteer. This comes from Plato's allegory of the chariot in Phaedrus. Your intellect isn't just chasing random facts or opinions. It wants to know what is true enough to build a satisfying life on. It starts asking, what information actually helps me live well? What is true? What helps me make sense of my story, my work, my relationships? Instead of feeding on endless virtual noise, your intellect begins to seek out the kinds of truths that lead to a more meaningful, grounded life. Your emotion, the white horse in Plato's chariot, is no longer repeating what you're supposed to feel. It reports your real inner weather. What do I genuinely care about? Where do I feel alive or drained or hurt? This is what allows you to live with actual passion, not just the correct emotional performance for the crowd. Your will is shown here as wings. In Greek philosophy and myth, wings are a symbol of the soul's ability to transcend and to leave the earth. They make the difference between Plato's chariot flying freely through the heavens or being grounded and incomplete. In this stage, like the horse's wings, they're just beginning to regrow. They're the wings that will one day carry you beyond mere survival and to the higher perspective of soul as spirit. But for now, they regrow slowly, choice by choice, as your will gets curious again. What if I try a different path than the one I was handed? What if I follow what feels true instead of what keeps me safe and small in the audience? Every time your will chooses real truth over virtual junk food, those wings grow a little bit more. Your body, the black horse, still seeks food, shelter, and safety, but it also begins to sense, I am more than this costume or avatar. How you eat, sleep, move, and rest becomes part of caring for the whole person, not just maintaining an empty shell for other people's stories. Together, your intellect, emotion, will, and body start working as a real team to shape your values, boundaries, and desires. This is the beginning of a healthy soul, the beginning of individuation, discovering who you are, not just who you were told to be. And this journey has a very specific flavor. This work happens in solitude, not loneliness. That's why the soulless person ace is the lone wolf. You still live in both worlds. You still need input from the outside, wisdom and light from the spiritual world, practical guidance and relationships in the physical world. But here, in this mode, the real journey happens within. Like the lone wolf, you travel this inner path alone. No one else can walk into your depths for you. No one else can decide which truths feel solid enough to build on, which boundaries actually protect your inner nature, which desires belong to your true self and not your virtual costume. You can be surrounded by people and still be on this solitary trail, not cut off, not abandoned, but choosing to become a whole person from the inside out. For a self-check, ask yourself, what are you mostly feeding your mind lately? Truths that help you build a satisfying life, or virtual junk food that just keeps you scrolling? Where is your will quietly tugging at you to try a different path, even in small, everyday choices? If those questions are real for you, you're already walking the lone wolf path of thriving. In virtual mode, your inner team was trapped in the theater. In soulless person, your intellect, emotion, will, and body woke up, and your will started to regrow its wings. In soulless spirit, those wings reach maturity. You're no longer living to prove you belong to any pack. Belonging has moved inside you as a quiet fact. You belong to the truth of who you are becoming. This is late-stage Jungian individuation. Life becomes less about fixing yourself or even just thriving, and more about becoming your highest character. In The Wizard of Oz set, everything centers on Dorothy. Dorothy is your essence, the deepest you that's been walking the yellow brick road all along. Inside Dorothy are four indispensable facets at their highest form: your higher intellect, higher emotion, free will, that's where your wings are, and light body. Together, they're the gold standard of who you can become. The Scarecrow shows Dorothy's higher intellect, the part of you that seeks understanding, that leads to wisdom, not just information, but insight that changes how you live. The Tin Man shows Dorothy's higher emotion, feeling that is deep, clean, and honest. It lets emotion move through without drowning in it, acting it out, or shutting it down. The Cowardly Lion shows Dorothy's free will, your wings. These wings don't grow on yes and no alone. They grow on truth. It takes courage to make healthy decisions based on truth rather than fear, habit, or the need for approval. Every time you choose from truth instead of those old patterns, your wings strengthen and your life lifts to a higher level. The Ace, the Becoming card, shows the meditator with light. This is the top of the surviving, thriving, becoming triad, the image of your ultimate life purpose. It's you oriented fully toward truth, continually growing and choosing to live from your highest character. This is the why behind all three modes, the summit they're secretly pointing to. The Seven card shows Dorothy's light body, the silhouette with inner light. This is that ultimate purpose in incarnation, your inner light actually shining through your lived embodied life. It's similar to the divine life spark, but here it's your essence consciously expressed through a refined body as higher intellect, higher emotion, and free will align with truth. For a self-check, ask yourself, when you face a decision, do you feel even a small pull toward what is actually true here, rather than what will they think? Can you sense that every time you choose truth, your inner wings feel a little stronger and your life feels a little more like it fits you? If even one of these things is starting to be real for you, you're already touching the early edges of your soulless spirit, becoming who you were always were. So those are the three archetypes of your soul. Your virtual soul, a human doing who is surviving. Your soulless person, that's the human being who's thriving. And finally, your soulless spirit, your human growing and becoming. Three modes, one journey, from living on someone else's script to becoming a real person from the inside out, to growing into the highest character you're capable of. If this way of mapping consciousness and inner archetypes speaks to you, deep, practical, no academic jargon, and no New Age fluff, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the deeper dives on each mode. By the way, if you want to work with these images yourself, I have created a free deck of 53 cards for subscribers. It includes all 3 modes, the core soul elements, and even more. You can use them as a daily check-in. Which mode am I in right now? Surviving, thriving, or becoming? There's a link in the description where you can get those. For your next step, watch the video on Plato's Soul and the Wizard of Oz. It shows how these 2 modes of thriving and becoming play out in 2 classic stories. Wherever you are on the path, surviving, thriving, or becoming, you're not doing it wrong. You're just in a particular mode of the same soul. I'll see you in the next video.